Hi everyone, Assalamualaikum. My name is Hanina Mohamed. I'm the Outreach Coordinator at CARE New York. CARE New York is one of the busiest and most dynamic of CARE's nationwide affiliates defending, representing, and educating Muslims in the New York area as well as the New York state. If you like, you can feel free to go to our website at www.care-ny.org, and you can learn more about us, the things that we do, the things that we provide. And all about our organization, our vision and mission, and just see the things that we've been working on for the past few years as well. So I'm here today to be giving out a immigrants' right workshop where I'll be going over a few things about ICE, immigration, COVID resources, and things that are available to you as an immigrant in New York City. So I do want to go over, this is an educational workshop. This is available for any of you that are available in New York City, as well as New York State as well. There are available things for New York State residents. So I just want to say again, hello everyone. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I'm really excited to give you guys more information for you to learn about your rights as an immigrant in New York City. So before we start, I'd like to make it clear that I am not an attorney, and this presentation is an educational guide to help you learn about your rights as an immigrant in New York City, and services that are available to you and your family and your neighbors and everyone around you. So this is not meant to give as legal advice. So, and also my name is Hanina, I am the Outreach Coordinator, and I'm from CARE New York, for those who have missed that. So for some of our objectives, today we're going to be learning more about your rights as an immigrant in New York City. So we're going to be covering updates on policy changes like DACA, TPS, the travel ban, and public charge. So please make sure to take the information that I'll be giving out shortly. These are very important, to you and your family and your neighbors. And it's good to also know your rights as an immigrant. And even if you're not an immigrant, it's also good to know these rights to also help out your friends or your neighbors if they ever have to deal with these type of things. So, of course, the first thing we're going to be learning today are the recent changes that have been happening through the federal immigration policy that may affect you or just anyone in general. Second, we are going to be learning about immigration officers in private and public areas. And third, to learn how to access free and safe legal services and resources in New York City, because why not? So lastly, and then we're going to be learning about COVID-19 treatment and testing. So ICE, immigration enforcement actions. So first, we're going to be learning about immigration enforcement actions and how can we be prepared. So ICE, known as immigration enforcement actions, are when ICE enforces immigration laws, such as or conducting investigations and making arrests. So regardless of your immigration status, it is really important for you to know your rights when you are interacting with ICE, to keep yourself safe and your community members safe as well. Um, so, so also remember the actions that are taken by ICE members are conducting investigations as well as making arrests. So these are some really important terms that you should know that I'm going to go over briefly. So first we have the Department of Homeland Security, also known as DHS. The DHS is the federal agency that oversees immigration matters, immigration and custom enforcement, known as ICE, and United States Citizenship and Immigration Services, also known as USCIS, are also part of the DHS. So next on our list, we have ICE. ICE stands for U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement. So ICE is a federal agency within DHS that does enforce immigration law. The next word we do have is LPR, which is also known for lawful permanent resident. So a person who is LPR is a person that has been officially granted the right to reside permanently in the United States, which also includes permission to work in the United States. So if you have an LPR, you are allowed to work legally in the United States. LPRs are also sometimes referred to people as green card holders. The next word we have on our list is undocumented person. Someone without legal immigration status living in the United States, including people who overstay after entering on a visa. Our next two terms are very important, and we are going to be going back to these. So remember, you do want to remember the difference between public and private areas. So a public area is a space where anyone can go. So examples is like a retail store or like a supermarket, a convenience store, a public library, like a government building, or even the street or the sidewalk, honestly. And then you have private areas. So a private area is a space that is not generally accessible by members of the public. So this can be like your home or an employee area that's at work. And so the last word we have that's very important is a warrant. So a warrant is an official document that gives government agents permission to do certain things. So we are going to be discussing the different types of warrants as well as what they're used for later in this video. So we're going to be going to executive and federal policy changes have happened. In the last 3 years, there have been a lot of changes in action policies. They happen quickly. So we're going to cover the most up-to-date information and some of the major policy changes that have been going on. So, the first one is DACA, also known as Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals. So DACA is a federal immigration program that had began in 2012 under President Obama that helps undocumented immigrants who came to the United States as young adult people. So DACA provides eligible undocumented immigrants with the temporary protection from deportation and access to work authorization. So currently, the federal government must continue to accept renewal for DACA applicants only, but the government is not accepting new applications. So if you do have more questions, you are able to call the Action NYC hotline at 1-800-354-0365, or you can call 311 and ask for Action NYC. Since taking office, President Biden has issued a memorandum encouraging the Attorney General and Secretary of Homeland Security to do everything in their power to preserve and to fortify the DACA program. So if you do have any questions on how this may affect you or your loved ones or your neighbors, so you can call the Action NYC hotline at 1-800-354-0365 anytime from 9 p.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern Time from Monday through Friday. So the next big policy change that we're going to be talking about is the travel ban. So the travel ban has unfortunately affected so many people, but the travel ban put varying travel and immigration restrictions on certain people from 13 designated countries by bearing visa issuance or entry into the United States, and there have been some exceptions. But the countries that were currently affected by the ban were Iran, Libya, North Korea, Syria, Venezuela, Yemen, Somalia, Nigeria, Eritrea, Kyrgyzstan, Myanmar, which was also known as Burma, as well as Tanzania and Sudan. So since taking office, President Biden has repealed the travel bans that have prevented people from Muslim majority countries and African countries from obtaining their visas, as well as entering the United States. This executive order will allow people who were previously banned from obtaining visas to apply for and go through the process, enable those who were denied a visa an opportunity to reapply and to reopen their case. So if you want to understand how this may impact you, you can call the Action NYC at 311 or 1-800-354-0365. The third major policy change we are going to be covering is TPS. Temporary Protected Status, or TPS, allows individuals in their home country due to humanitarian emergency to remain in the United States if it is unsafe for them to return to their home country. So, for an example, the federal government may designate a country for TPS if there's a conflict. An example, a civil war or like a natural disaster, like an earthquake or a hurricane or something serious. So, TPS does enable recipients to work in the United States lawfully and protects them from deportation as long as the TPS designation is in effect. So, the following countries who are currently designated for TPS is El Salvador, Haiti, Honduras, Nepal, Nicaragua, Somalia, Sudan, South Sudan, Syria, and Yemen. So the future of TPS really, for many of these countries, is not certain, and people should make sure to get the most up-to-date information when it comes to TPS designations. The fourth federal policy that we're going to be going over today is public charge. So this is something the Trump administration announced. It's a rule change that may impact when a non-citizen is considered a public charge for immigration purposes. So this rule makes it harder for some people to get green cards or visas because some immigrants must show that they will not be a public charge in their immigration applications. So this test only applies in certain situations, including when someone's applying for a green card or if they are changing and or extending certain visas. So it only applies to some categories of applying for green cards or visas. And when the test does apply, federal immigration law allows immigration officials to deny green cards and visas if they find that an applicant is likely to become a public charge. So this rule, it's very important to know that this rule did come into effect February 24th of 2020. This rule does not change eligibility requirements for public benefit programs. Also, it does not change if you are getting care or treatment or testing for COVID-19. This will not make you a public charge and it will not hurt your ability to apply for a green card. So, getting charity or discounted medical care will not hurt your ability to apply for a green card as well as applying for unemployment. So there is no public charge test when green card holders are applying for citizenship. So obviously seek care without fear. There's nothing to be worried about. You know, as an immigrant New Yorkers who are concerned about changes to public charge, the rule could impact them or their loved ones. You know, you can get help by making the best decision for themselves and their family members. You can get information also and get more informed by speaking with a lawyer or an attorney. You know, and if you don't want to speak an attorney, you can also call the Action NYC hotline at 311 and say public charge. Um, so again, if you or anyone that you needs legal advice or any type of legal assistance related to TPS, the travel ban, DACA, public charge, you can call 311, say Action NYC, or you can also send us an email at info@care.ny.com. So the next thing that we're going to be going over is a very important thing, and I want to say it is when you are interacting with ICE, they are not your local police officers. So ICE agents are not local NYPD police officers or any local police officers, no matter where you live throughout the states. So it is important to know this because the NYPD does not conduct civil immigration enforcement. So you can report a crime to the NYPD and they should not ask you about your immigration status. And you should know that the New York State Police does not conduct civil immigration enforcement and should not be asking you about your immigration status. So sometimes ICE will wear uniforms that say police on them, and it can be confusing, but there are some ways that you can tell the difference between an ICE agent and an NYPD. So they have different uniforms. NYPD NYPD uniforms will usually have a patch on their arm that will say City of New York on it. And ICE uniforms can have a few words that will say such as federal agent, police, police ICE, HSI, which stands for Homeland Security Investigation, or ICE HSI. So another example to always look at when it comes to ICE agents and the NYPD is their badges. Their badges are not the same either. So NYPD badges will always say City of New York. Typically, sometimes it says the police department on the top. And then ICE badges will typically say ICE or special agent or even US Department of Homeland Security on their badges. So it is really important to take a look at those badges again and just to see, and then also to take a look at the uniforms to make sure of the difference, because ICE agents' uniforms are always going to look different than your local police officers. So and then the next thing a lot of it's a very important to remember is the common places that you can find ICE people interacting with you. You can find them in a lot of common places known as your work, your home, or just public spaces. So some of these places where people may interact, ICE agents are at work too. So in public spaces or just in your neighborhood. So it is really important to know your rights in each of these areas. So your home is a your home or anyone's home is a private space. So you always want to remember, if you are in someone's home, that is a private space where you are safe from an ICE agent. Your place of work can have both public spaces and private spaces. The streets, the parks, and the courthouses are considered public spaces, but more on New York State courthouses are going to be on the next slide. So ICE agents can no longer make an arrest inside or around New York State courthouses without a judicial warrant. So that is, you cannot be arrested inside or around the New York State courthouses without a judicial warrant. So the next thing we're going to be going into is sensitive locations. So a lot of sensitive locations are schools, hospitals, clinics, religious institutions, and public ceremonies. So there are certain types of locations where ICE typically does not conduct immigration enforcement, and these are the sensitive locations, such as the schools, hospitals, religious institutions like a church or a masjid or a temple, public ceremonies. So it's always known to be so examples of these are, you know public ceremonies can also include weddings, public demonstrations, rallies, funerals. So it is important to know that if an ICE agent is around, there is an ICE policy, um, but you always have to remember that any ICE policy can change at any moment. So one day these are sensitive locations, and the next day they might not be. So something really important to always remember is, how can you identify ICE for people for immigration enforcement? So ICE has a number of investigative tools and databases that it uses that to identify individuals who may be removable. And they may be about people through a number of ways. And it's very important to know these things if you do end up interacting with ICE, because one, they are not the local police officers, so you always want to remember that uh, they cannot arrest you without the proper materials. So people who have submitted an immigration application, um, or otherwise have had interaction with the immigration system, so including at the border. So those who have been arrested and fingerprinted for a crime, even for a minor crime, or for arrests that did not lead to a conviction, could be in the system from long ago. So that is also very important to remember. And then ICE also has a broadened scope of its enforcement in the last couple of years. So, nevertheless, the following groups of people are still a focus for arrest and or removal. And those are those who are pending with criminal cases or prior convictions, those who are with an order or removal from immigration court, um, and who have been previously removed, or those who have committed fraud or misrepresentation in their immigration applications, or those who they believe pose a threat to public safety or national security. So the next thing that we're going to be going into, and it's really important to remember how these look like, are warrants. So there's two different warrants: is a warrant for an arrest of an undocumented person, and then also the warrant for removal slash deportation. And these are administrative warrants. So if ICE comes to your workplace or your home and they might have a warrant, and if they do, you want to also remember what is a warrant. So a warrant is a document that is issued by a government official that gives law enforcement permission to do certain things. And there are different types of warrants that each one gives ICE permission to do, so something specific. So it is important to know what each warrant does and what each one looks like. So first we have the administrative warrant. So if you can't see the screen, we have both a warrant for an arrest and then warrant for a removal slash deportation. So an administrative warrant or an ICE warrant is addressed to federal immigration officers by their superiors at DHS and is used in a civil immigration enforcement actions. So this is signed by an ICE officer, and this is not signed by a judge. So it's always good to remember that an administrative warrant is signed by an officer and not by the judge. And you can typically find the signature at the bottom. An administrative warrant does not give ICE authority to demand entry to the private areas of a workplace or a home. An administrative warrant or an ICE warrant also seeks the detention or arrest of people for civil immigration purposes. So, however, when you do have this warrant and they do come by, note that these warrants are not from a court. And some of the things that would be included on these warrants are, like words like U.S. Department of Homeland Security, Form I-200, Form I-205, warrant for arrest of aliens on Form I-200, and the other form would also say warrant of removal slash deportation on Form I-205. And this will also be signed by an authorized immigration officer, not a judge. The next type of warrant we have is an arrest warrant sample for a judicial warrant. So a judicial warrant is signed by a state or a federal judge. A judicial warrant can also give ICE permission to enter the private areas we spoke about earlier. So if the ICE agent does not have a judicial warrant, they're going to need permission expressed vocally or by action of a resident to enter the home. So if the ICE agent does not have a judicial warrant, they need expressed permission from the owner, the manager, or supervisor to enter the private space of a workplace. So you also want to remember that, judges have ways of writing warrants. So they will, and they can look always different depending on who wrote it. So some of the things that you will always find are the name and the signature of the judge, the name of the property, and they have permission to search, the date and the time of the search, as well as the location of the court. So you want to always pay attention to who's signing the court and who the warrant, and who's also bringing the warrant. So the next thing we want to go into is things to know when you are interacting with ICE. So when you are interacting to ICE, it is always important, remember, to stay calm. It's okay. They're just people that, we have to deal with. So on this slide, we're going to go through some important things when you are interacting with ICE. And if you are approached by federal immigration agents, such as ICE, it is, be aware that you have rights regardless of your immigration status. So whenever you interact with ICE, it's always important and to remember to stay calm. You have the right to remain silent. If you speak to ICE, anything you say can be used against you. And you can record the situation with your phone if you feel comfortable. And so as long as you don't interfere with the officers. So agents may say you cannot record them, but that is not true. However, if the agents are trying to talk to you or arrest you, starting or continuing to film may put you at risk. But you can report the ICE activity um, if it does happen, and if you do need to ever report any type of incident you've had with ICE, you can call the Legal Aid Immigration Hotline at 1-844-955-3425, or you can also call and report what ICE agents did to you at the Immigration Defense Project Hotline at 1-212-725-6422. And there's a few little more things to know. If you're at home, if ICE comes into you and you're at home, uh, ICE cannot enter your home without your permission. So you do always want to remember that if ICE is at your door, you do not have to immediately open the door for ICE, and you do not have to speak to ICE. You have the right to remain silent, and if you speak to ICE, anything you can say can be used against you. So you can say, I don't want to talk to you right now. And so from behind the closed door, you can ask them, who are they, to show their badge, their ID, or their business card through the window or the peephole, and to even pass it under the closed door if you like. You can ask ICE if they have a judicial warrant, and to see the warrant through the window or the peephole, or even for them to pass you the warrant from under the door. So if the ICE agent does not have a judicial warrant signed by a judge, they cannot enter your home without your permission from an adult at home, except in emergency situations. So if they do not have a judicial warrant, you may state that you do not consent to entry or search, but this does not mean that you are allowed to physically resist the search. So if ICE is inside your home without your permission, you can tell them clearly, I do not consent to you being in my home. Please leave. Saying this is not always going to stop them, but it also might help you out if any future legal case needs to be built. So if ICE starts to search your rooms and items in your home, you can tell them, I do not consent to your search. You can continue to repeat this. And if they continue to search without your consent, you can tell them if there are any children, or you need to tell them that if there are any children, or if there are any other vulnerable residents that are in your home. So the next place where you could be interacting with ICE is at your work. So if ICE can enter the public space of any workplace without needing any type of warrant. Public spaces may include office lobby, supermarket, retail store, or dining area of a restaurant. ICE cannot legally enter the private spaces of a workplace unless they have permission from your employer or have a judicial warrant that is signed by a judge. So private spaces are employee areas, employee only areas that may include like a break room, storage room of a workplace. So if you are approached by ICE at work, you do not have to answer their questions, and you can direct them to your employer. So your employers can ask ICE to show their identification and to ask ICE if they have a warrant or not. As always, if ICE agents try to search your pockets or belongings, you can say, I do not consent to a search. And if they search you anyways, always remember you cannot physically stop them. But clearly saying you do not consent to a search may be important to any future legal case. When ICE agents arrest someone in public, it's really important that it typically happens very quick. So they may call your name out loud, and ask you to confirm your name, and then they'll detain you. So if you're on the street in public, or just anywhere in public in general, you have the right to remain silent. Anything you can say to ICE can be used against you. So you always want to remember, before responding with your name or anything else, you may ask, am I free to go? And if they say yes, then you can say, I don't want to answer any of your questions, and walk away. And if they say no, you can say, I want to use my right not to answer any questions. And you can say, I want to speak to a lawyer. If an ICE officer tries to search your pockets or belongings, you can say, I do not consent to a search, but you may not physically resist one. So also going into our next thing that is really important to remember when you are interacting with ICE is if you're being arrested by ICE. If you're being arrested by ICE, there are some things that you should know. The agents may not be able to communicate you in your language. There's a good chance that they might not speak whatever your mother tongue is if you are not fluent or if you struggle with speaking English, which is okay. So if you speak to ICE, anything you say can be used against you, and you may choose to remain silent if you like to. You may state that you wish to speak to an attorney before saying anything or signing anything. So you may state that you wish to speak to an attorney if you are arrested by an ICE agent before you say or sign anything. You can tell them if you have any medical issues and you need to arrange for childcare. You should not lie or give any false documents, and you should not physically resist. If you are being detained, people in the community may film ICE so long as they do not interfere with the officers. If ICE agents are trying to talk to you or arrest you, you starting or continuing to film may put you at risk. So if someone you know is being detained by ICE, you can ask where they are being taken. So there are a few things that are important to remember. The detention process can be confusing, and immigration authorities may not walk you through everything. They're not the most helpful when it comes to, trying to help your loved one in need that's been arrested. So it's really important to remember that, again, the ICE agents may not be able to communicate with you in your language. You have the right to speak to an attorney, and you may speak to your attorney and take time to obtain one. If you are detained, you have to write the call. You have the right to call an attorney and your family as well. You have the right to be visited by an attorney in detention, and you don't have to sign anything. You may ask to speak with your lawyer before signing anything as well. And always remember that you have the right to contact your consulate as well. So write down the name, the telephone number of the deportation officer that was assigned to you and to assign to your case, because that's really going to be important information that you want to be able to give your lawyer or attorney that you have. So these are a few things that you want to know if your loved one is detained. So to find where your loved one is detained, you can use the locator.ice.gov website, and you're going to need to know their country name, their country of birth, as well as their A number. Or you will need their country of birth, their first name, their last name, and their date of birth. But you also want to remember that each ICE facility does have its own rules about visitation and when it comes to sending money. So you can look up visitation and other information at ice.gov/detention/facilities. So that is ice.gov/DETENTION dash FACILITIES. And you can call the jail to confirm the information to make sure that everything is correct and up to date. And to find out when and where your loved one's next hearing will take place, you can call the EOIR hotline. You can call them at 1-800-898-7180. And you can call them by putting in your loved one's A number to see where they are located at. So, how can you prepare for a possible immigration enforcement action? So, one, you want to know your rights. This presentation and other presentations that are very similar can help equip you for interacting with ICE agents or just the NYPD or any other local police officers. The next thing is you want to create an emergency plan for you and your family in case you are detained or deported. So you do want to choose an emergency contact, and you want to memorize their phone number, and that's really important. So this person should be someone you trust, including someone like your lawyer. You'd want to choose a standby guardian for your children. So a standby guardian is a person who you can choose who will take care of your children when you cannot, up to 1 year. And making someone your standby guardian does not mean you are giving up your legal rights as a parent. It just means that you are only giving up you are giving the guardian permission to make certain decisions for your children when you cannot. So, and if you do want more information on the standby guardians, you can call the Action NYC hotline at 311 um, and just say standby guardian. And you also can get more free legal safe checkups with Action NYC as well. So the next thing is how to get access to legal immigration help. Another way you can prepare is by getting legal checkups to see if you are eligible for an immigration benefit. And you can learn more about immigration options. And even if you have consulted with your immigration lawyer in the past, so you may want to do so again in case something may have changed. So you can get an immigration legal checkup if you have any concerns about your immigration status, would like to learn more about your eligibility for an immigration benefit like a green card or citizenship, or if you need help with an immigration application, or you just want some consultation um, for a free and safe immigration legal service provider. Also, when you do call Action NYC at 311 for free and safe legal immigration help, you can find someone who does speak your language, and you have that option for you to have someone help you out. There are really important things that MOIA, the Mayor's Office of Immigrant Affairs in New York City, does provide, like constituent services line. So you can call the constituent service line at 212-788-7654, and you can also call Action NYC. The Action NYC will connect you to free and safe immigration help in your New York City community in your language. So these are really important to always remember. An Action NYC provides free, comprehensive, and confidential legal screenings to determine eligibility for immigration benefits. So free, safe, legal immigration help is always available for you if you need it. And it also ranges from immigration benefits like citizenship, green card applications and renewals, DACA, TPS, and more, of course. So you can call and make an appointment by calling 1-800-354-0365, or you can call 311 by saying Action NYC. And always remember that this is safe, and it's free, and it's very confidential, and this is for you. This is for our immigrant community to always have that assistance that they always need, no matter what. So the next thing that we're going to go over really quickly is the Action NYC hotline. The Action NYC hotline is a toll-free number that you can connect to immigration and legal help and answer your immigration and naturalization questions. So, and all calls are confidential. And it is really important to remember that this hotline also provides assistance more than 200 languages. So I'm pretty sure that we got you covered. So through this hotline, you can ask general immigration and naturalization questions. You can receive immigration and legal appointments, and you can obtain referrals to immigrant-related programs as well. So you can call 1-800-354-0365, or you can call 311 and say Action NYC to connect with a live operator. Next thing is, immigration fraud. A lot of people, tend to get stuck in this. So we want to go through this a little bit and talk about immigration fraud and how you can avoid it. So while it is important to get a free legal screening, and to know the types of relief that you may be eligible for, it is also really important to be cautious of the person or business you are discussing this with. because you just want to always be sure of your immigration options and who you are potentially working with or might be working with. So inappropriately filing out an immigration application, um, is not only a waste of money, but also may result in deportation. So immigration law is complicated, but you have to be aware of fraudulent immigration providers who may indicate otherwise and make false promises. So you always want to watch out for those false promises, such as an easy way to obtain a green card, a way to get a work permit or visa immediately, statements indicating that there are no risk or consequences, claims of special influence with immigration authorities, and once you've found a legal representative, you always want to ask questions, even if the provider was recommended by a family member or a friend, or any of the following. So you do always want to remember that once a lawyer or an individual from an accredited or recognized by the U.S. Department of Justice (DOJ) can give you immigration legal advice, you want to ask proof for their bar license or ask for their accreditation from the Department of Justice. You want to get a second opinion. You also want to go, in some countries, notaries are like lawyers. And that's not the case in the US. The notary is not an attorney in the United States. And a notary and other non lawyers can only translate, photocopy, notarize, and take your photo. So you do, and help you get those documents and medical tests. So you do only want to go to providers that have a physical location, ask for a written agreement of services to be provided that is signed by your provider, and read the agreement before signing it. And keep the signed copy for your records. Do not pay for government application forms because government application forms are free and can be downloaded online at www.uscis.gov/forms. You always want to ask for a written receipt with the name and address of the provider. You want to keep your original documents and copies of all documents submitted to the government. You don't want to sign any blank or incomplete forms or anything that you do not fully understand. And you want to make sure that your legal representative is not actually an immigration assistance service provider or a notary. And if you ever need to report immigration fraud, you can call the New Americans Hotline at 1-800-566-7636. COVID-19 testing. So, first, all New Yorkers should get tested for COVID-19, whether or not they have symptoms or you are at an increased risk. If you already have been tested and you were negative, you should get another one and to test if you have any COVID-19 symptoms or concerned by a possible exposure. So there are a few places that are pretty awesome in terms of getting free COVID-19 testings. And we're all going to be talking about that a little bit. But did want to talk about if you did test positive, you're going to be receiving a call from a tracer. So the Test and Trace Corps is an initiative to stop COVID-19 infections in New York City, and help the city open back up. So if you test positive, you are going to be receiving a call from the tracer, who will ask if you need more medical attention, and help you arrange and isolate at home or at a free hotel, and create a list for everyone you had contact with since shortly before or the onset of symptoms. So if you test positive, a tracer will facilitate healthcare, um, as well as mental health services, and get a meal and medication delivery as well. So free testing. So free testing, regardless of your immigration status or whether you have insurance or not, is available at the following locations. So you can go to any New York City health and hospitals that operates multiple COVID-19 testing sites through the 5 boroughs. So you can go and get a free testing at any time in Staten Island, Brooklyn, Manhattan, Queens, the Bronx, any of the boroughs of New York City. The locations can be found, more information on the New York City Health and website, hospital websites. So, and you can also get free COVID testing at City MD. So through the partnership that they have with the New York City government, they also are offering testing at all of its locations throughout the city on a walk-in basis every single day of the week, 7 days of the week. You can go and get a COVID-19 test done, and you can just walk up. So visiting the City MD for location and hours throughout its 5 boroughs, you can find them throughout the Bronx, Manhattan, Queens, Brooklyn, and Staten Island. And lastly, you can go to Advantage Care Physicians. They have partnered with the New York State government to offer testing at 22 different sites throughout the city. So you can visit the ACPNY's website for more information. And there are hundreds of convenient testing sites across the city and the state, as well as mobile testing units visiting from different locations throughout the 5 boroughs. So if you do have any information or any questions, you can go visit nyc.gov/COVID test or call Action NYC at 311. So I did also want to let you guys know there are free rapid COVID-19 tests that are available to New Yorkers regardless of your immigration status at any COVID Express testing site. So you can make an appointment for a free COVID-19 rapid test at any of these express testing sites throughout the city. These test results are available within 24 hours or less of your visit, and the tests are performed for free to all New Yorkers, regardless of your immigration status. So testing is only available by appointment only. Unfortunately, there is no walk-up. So if you do want a rapid COVID test done at any express testing site, it is by appointment only. And the fastest way to make an appointment is to choose a time and date through the online scheduler. So you can go through the DOHMH website and schedule an appointment for a free rapid test. So the next thing that's really important is COVID-19 treatment. All health insurance plans must cover COVID-19 testing without any out-of-pocket payments, So as important it is to be able to access coronavirus testing, it is critical that you can access healthcare services if you do get sick with COVID-19. So if you do have health insurance, it is important to remember that all health insurance plans must cover COVID-19 testing without any out-of-pocket payments. Second, any New York State emergency Medicaid covers COVID-19 testing and treatment, without any out-of-pocket payments as well for low income and uninsured residents, including undocumented immigrants. If you want to sign up for emergency Medicaid in advance, you can contact the NYC Department Health of Insurance Enrollers by visiting the DOHMH website. And you can also call 311 and say, get covered. Thirdly, if you have disputes with hospitals or doctors about medical bills or disagree with health insurance plans about eligibility or coverage, or if you just have any questions navigating the healthcare or health insurance system, you can call the Community Health Advocates hotline at 1-888-614-5400. And the Community Health Advocates hotline provides translation services in more than 170 languages. So before we do almost end this, I did want to go through a few over things. So, if ICE does not have permission to enter a private space, what kind of warrant do they need? If ICE agents need permission or do need permission to enter a private space, they will need a warrant. They will need a judicial warrant. And so the second thing is, do you have the right to speak to your lawyer before talking to ICE or signing any documents for ICE? And that question to that answer is yes. You do have the right to speak to your lawyer before talking to ICE agents or signing any documents for them. Lastly, and can you call 311 for any details on any city services? Of course. That's the whole purpose of 311 is to call them at any time whenever you need them, you know? And really quickly want to go through COVID-19 food assistance. The city has made significant investments to ensure food pantries where you can get groceries and community kitchens where you can get warm and prepared food that are well stocked. While the pandemic related logistical challenges force some of these places to scale down their work, others have been expanding their operation and serving New Yorkers every single day. So these places serve everyone, whether you are documented or not. You can find out the nearest location by visiting the Food Bank NYC website, or you can just call 311 and say food pantries. You know, and the next thing are meal hubs, where you can go and pick up 3 meals a day for each person. In your family and other people as well. No ID is required or any type of registration is required. And the city has made these efforts to ensure that these meal hubs are available in area where access to pantries are and soup kitchens are limited. So you can visit the meal hub locator or website at 311 or text food to 877-877 to find a location near you. And the next thing is food delivery. The city is also delivering meals to those who cannot leave their home. So if you don't have anyone to bring you food or you can't afford private delivery, there is no documentation that's needed. You just have to answer the survey questions. You can visit the website or fill out the online survey and call 311 and say get food. Lastly, while this is not a city program, I want to make sure that you are aware of pandemic EBT. If you have a child who goes to any NYC public school, you can receive up to $420 for every single child and an EBT card that can be used to purchase food and groceries for your children and your family. So you do not have to apply or do anything. The card should be automatically addressed. Automatically mailed to you. And however, if you are worried that the New York State government has the right address for you, or if you're wondering why you still haven't received or gotten the card, you can contact the state OTDDA, the New York State Office of Temporary and Disability Assistance, and you can give them a call at 833-452-0096, or you can just send them an email with any of the questions that you do have for them. New York State Dream Act. The New York State Dream Act is really important. It does give out undocumented and other students access to New York State administrative grants as well as scholarships. The New York's Dream Act does open New York financial aid programs, including tuition assistance program known as TAP, to more students, including undocumented students who meet certain criteria. And it also allows New York families to access the 529 college saving programs, regardless of their immigration status. So it is important to be clear and to remember that this is about the Dream Act, not the proposed federal one. So this one is exclusively about paying for college and not about granting immigration status. And lastly, protection from discrimination for housing, it's really important. New York City human rights law protects the tenants from being discriminated based on immigration status, national origin, age, color, race, gender, sexual orientation, marital status, and other traits. Your landlord cannot refuse to rent an apartment because of someone's immigration status, nationality, or religious beliefs. Posting advertisements stating that there are certain types of tenants, such as immigrants or people from certain countries, are unwelcome. And fail to make adequate repairs or provide equal services to tenants because of their immigration status, nationality, or religious beliefs. So those are a few things that landlords cannot do. If your landlord is threatening to report you or your neighbors to ICE, um, or if your neighbor is requiring proof of citizenship or documentation detailing immigration status, um, it is important to remember you can call 311 all the time and anytime you can need from anytime from 9 to 6 p.m. But also remember if they are refusing to sell, rent, or lease housing or make any repair due to your immigration status or national origin, they cannot. So you call 311, ask for the NYC Commission of Human Rights, or you can call the Commission's info line directly at 718-722-3131. And if your landlord is harassing or threatening to replace you or your neighbors, please call the Tenant Protection Hotline at 917-661-4505. And I just wanted to thank everyone who took the time today to come and learn about, your rights when it comes to ICE immigration, undocumented or not, and the resources that are available to everyone through New York City and New York State. And I do appreciate the time that you guys have taken to come and to learn. And I really hope that I've been able to help and benefit you as much as I'm able to give you this information.